G'day, how you doing? It's me, Camui Kushi, and today we're having a little bit of a look at the changes to physical and magical range DPS coming in Dawn Trail that they teased in the May 16th live letter. May 16th, I don't know why I said main. I decided to combine the two roles since there are only 3 phys ranged in the game anyway, and I'm going to be talking about Pictomancer in a video with Viper, so I figured let's combine them together. Also, the game kind of treats ranged DPS, whether physical or magical, in its kind of own little collective anyway. Putting that aside, let's have a looky at what they're changing for the whole role of physical DPS. So first of all, the most interesting thing I think out of these two is they're finally buffing the potency of Second Wind, which might actually make it more useful. It's not going to be a buff to it generally, it's going to be a buff that probably from a trait that we'll get in the level 90s range, which is cool. The other thing they're doing is giving a buff to the job exclusive mitts, bumping them to 15%. So that's Troubadour, Tactician, and Shield Summer getting a buff to 15%, which is pretty in line with what they're doing with Feint and Addle. They're getting a buff as well, except in that case it's a length buff. They're going to be 15 seconds long instead. This is a mitigation bump, which is interesting. And also can combine with like the tanks getting buffs to their mitts as well. Like they've got Reprisal, which is a party-wide mitt, technically, so that's interesting. I think it was getting bumped from 10 to 15 seconds. It's very interesting that they're buffing all these mitigations. But now let's specifically look at what's going on with Bard. Yes. So with Bard, Mage's Ballad, Army's Paean, and Wanderer's Minuet, all their buff songs, are being changed into buffs instead of being attacks. So currently they have a 100 potency attack attached to them, and you can only use those songs when there is an enemy present. Which, if an enemy leaves currently, and you need to use your song, you're buggered. you can't change songs. This will make it so you can. Another thing is they're changing Pitch Perfect, which is an attack that's procced off Wanderer's Minuet, to be AoE instead of single target. Very nice. Gives it more use when you're dealing with trash mobs or whatever, and encounters with multiple enemies. Very cool. They also said that Shadow Bite Ready and Straight Shot Ready will be getting replaced with a single proc for both Shadow Bite and Refulgent Arrow, or Straight Shot, depending on your level. Which means, hopefully, that you can use Barrage in AoE situations now to get yourself a Shadow Bite. That would just be very nice if that's the case. But let's have a little bit of a looky at the job trailer and see some of this stuff in action. Yeah. Here we go. They start off using Wanderer's Minuet out of combat, Imperial Arrow for some reason, Battle Voice, Storm Bite, Caustic Bite, Sidewinder, Pitch Perfect, Mage's Ballad to change songs, a regular ass normal shot, this looks like a Bloodletter, they do another Imperial Arrow for some reason, and another Bloodletter, that looks like Nature's Min, which is a buff, Reign of Death, Army's Paean, another song change, they Barrage to proc Refulgent Arrow, that looks like a new attack off Refulgent Arrow, Apex Arrow, Blast Arrow, Radiant Finale, I'm pretty sure, and then an attack that seems to be comboed off Radiant Finale, which is very interesting indeed. Very, very interesting that they seem to be giving everything a big boomy attack that gets becomes available after a buff. That's pretty interesting. But let's go jump into the game and look at how it currently functions, yeah? So here's my guy. And first of all, I'm going to remove the striking dummy just to show you. No matter how much I mash Wanderer's Minuet, it just says invalid target. You can't use it. There's no way to use any of the songs outside of combat. Doesn't matter what you do. We'll slap down our striking dummy though, and you'll see right off the bat, I will be able to, in fact, use Wanderer's Minuet. So let's do that. Bam. There it goes. Let's do Imperial Arrow. Do the same thing they did. We got Battle Voice. Bam. Stormbite. Got that over here. I believe they did Caustic Arrow after that. No, that's Raging Strikes. Never mind. Sidewinder. Bam. And then they did Pitch Perfect. Then they swapped to Mage's Ballad here. Oh, wait. I accidentally swapped to Army's Burn. Okay, well, we're doing Army's Burn instead. They did a normal shot. They did a Bloodletter. They did another Imperial Arrow. Then another Bloodletter. They did Nature's Mint. And then Reign of Death. Bam. Then they changed songs there. That should have been to Army's Fan, but whatever. Then they did Barrage. So there you go, Barrage, Refulgent Arrow. Now, I might actually, I'll spam an AoE shot to get a Shadow Bite ready, so you can see that the animation for Shadow Bite is different than the attack they did after Refulgent Arrow before. Looks like I'm not getting any luck with these procs. There we go, Shadow Bite ready. Okay. So you see that's completely different from the animation that they had that followed up from Refulgent Arrow. So I reckon that was a new ability that comes after Refulgent Arrow. Possibly you get it from Barrage. It's hard to say. Then they did Apex Arrow. Bam. Blast Arrow. Then they did Radiant Finale. And then they did an attack that comboed off Radiant Finale. So yes. I don't recall them doing Iron Jaws at all. I would have remembered that distinct chime. I don't believe they did Warden's Pain either. There's a couple of things they just didn't use at all. I mean, they didn't use Latent Fight either. But yeah, that's it. That's basically everything, though. I don't think they used Troubadour either. We got Troubadour as well. But there were some things in there, definitely, that they did not discuss in the live letter. That attack that came after Refulgent Arrow, that feels like something new. And the attack that came after Radiant Finale, they definitely didn't mention that as well, but I reckon that's definitely a new attack that procs off it. Considering other jobs have been getting attacks that, like, you'd use a buff and then it turns into another attack. I reckon that's what's going to be happening there. That's interesting. That's interesting. Let's move on now to heckin' Machinist. Let's have a little bit of looky at what's going down in Machinist Town, eh? Okay. So, first thing of all, Barrel Stabilizer will now no longer increase your heat gauge. Instead, it's going to give you a use of Hypercharge. So this is another thing that's similar to what they're doing with some of the other jobs, where a ability will give you a use of something instead of increasing gauge to help prevent overcapping. There are actually quite a lot of things in this update that they're going to be doing to help prevent overcap, which is pretty cool. The other thing is Drill will be getting a second charge. So instead of accidentally potentially overcapping on Drill, because it's only got a 20-second cooldown, you'll be able to have two charges. So you'll use it, and you've got 20 seconds to before it'll be back up to full and having two charges again. So you can always have a use on cooldown is the point, but have one kind of in your back pocket to use whenever as well, which is pretty nice. And they didn't mention this in the live let. It's not on the slides, but they did mention this. There will be an upgrade to Heat Blast, Gas Round, and Ricochet, and we do actually see those in the job action trailer. So let's have a little bit of a look at that right now. Let's have a little bit of a peek. Boop. So here they open up with Flamethrower for whatever reason. Then they go into Chainsaw, and then they do another Chainsaw, which I'm guessing is procced off Chainsaw. Split Shot. Good old slug shot, heated split shot, and heated slug shot. A drill, heated clean shot. Then they go into air anchor and a bioblaster. Then they do barrel stabilizer. I love the animation of barrel stabilizer. It's cool. And then they summon Queen. Throw out a wildfire. And it looks like they use hypercharge. And that looks like a new heat blast. That's probably new gas round. Another heat blast. New ricochet. And they do auto bow for some reason. Another drill. And then there's this weird drone attack that happens. And I'm assuming, like with Dark Knight having a new ability that comes after Living Shadow, I think the move is called. I think that'll be coming after Summon Queen, because they're kind of functionally similar, aren't they? You summon a thing, it does some attacks on its own. I have a feeling that big boomy gun attack will be coming after Summoning Queen. Summon Queen will probably turn into it or something, and then you get the ability to use it near the end of the Queen summon. Very cool and interesting though. Again, once again, like with all of the other job teasers in the trailer, there's a bunch of stuff they didn't mention. Very cheeky, sneaking it right under our noses. But let's have a little bit of a peek at how the job looks currently in the game, eh? And I'm going to try to again replicate what they did in the job action trailer. So they start with flamethrower. So let's start with flamethrower. Bam. Then they did chainsaw. Patrol. What did they do after chainsaw? They did the chainsaw follow up, then they did split shot. Slug shot. Then they did a drill. Then they did a clean shot. And they did an air anchor. Bioblaster's not up yet, so that kind of shows, because Bioblaster and drill share a cooldown, it kind of demonstrates that Bioblaster will probably be getting a charge as well, alongside drill, because I couldn't use Bioblaster yet. Now I can use Bioblaster. And they used barrel stabilizer. Then they used Summon Queen, so I can do that. Chuck out Wildfire, go into Heat Blast. Bam. And then the Ricochet. Gas round to me. Bam. Ricochet. Auto Crossbow. What did they do after Auto Crossbow? Another drill. And then they had their little drone attack that came afterwards. Personally, I don't think things will change too much. Like, we'll have a charge to hold on to for drill. But as far as I'm aware, out of all the tools, drill has the lowest priority anyway. You want to go chainsaw, air anchor, and drill. So I don't think that changes too much. It's just more of a nicety thing, I think. Having a new ability on Queen, that's cool. But again, don't know if it will change too much. They'll probably just get potency buffs and animation changes, which is cool. It's always nice to have a bit of a flavor change. And that's really all they talked about changing, alongside being sneaking in those extra things that they didn't explain. But yeah, that's Machinist. Now let's have a little bit of a looky at Dancer. Bam. So a new action after Flourish. It looks like it could be an attack. They just said a new action that will be executed after Flourish. Okay. And a new action that consumes a spree that will be executed after technical finish. Okay. So once again, following the theme of like you do a thing, you get another move. Do a buff, get another move. And they mentioned that there will be a method to get standard step buffs for you and your dance partner without having to do the dance moves. I feel like it's probably just going to be a button you press to get it, kind of like how currently you have Huton, Horizon, that gives you Huton on Ninja, which will probably be going away, to get the buff. I'm assuming it probably won't have a damage component to it. So that's just like I need to refresh my buff. Let me press this button real quick. instead of doing standard step, because there's probably going to be things, more important things to do now that they've added these other new moves that you're going to want to do instead of doing standard step. Because standard step, for the damage it does, sometimes it's not worth it. Like if you've got a spree to spend on Saber Dance, maybe you want to do Saber Dance instead of standard step. So that's an interesting thing. Not a little bit, just a little bit of a quality of life, I guess. So let's have a look at how that works in the trailer. Boop. And a boop. So here they do Dance Partner on that monk over there. That looks like Flourish. Then a Reverse Cascade, it seems. Fountainfall, I think. On Avant. Looks like a new action. That doesn't look familiar to me. Saber Dance. Devilment. Starfall Dance after Devilment. Fan Dance 4. That looks like a new attack. Then they do Tech Step. Bam, Tilana after that. There we go. And then now they're doing the new action because that's Spend a Spree. So that's the one that comes off Tech Step. Not sure what that other new action is. Let's go back again and have a bit of a peek. Because like they do a little bit of a jig, a little bit of a dance after they on Avant, right? So, there we go. It's a bit of a jig. What is it? Is that buff? Is that the new ability to refresh standard step? Not sure. Not sure. It could be, maybe that's the new ability that... Maybe the standard step buff comes off Flourish? It's hard to say. Although they did mention them kind of as separate things, so maybe not. But anyway, that's that. Let's have a little bit of a look at how Dancer currently functions. Yes. So we'll zoom over back to the game. So they start off doing Dance Partner. We don't have a Dance Partner to Dance Partner with. But what we will do so we can start building a spree, since we don't have any of those new moves, is I'll do Standard Step. Get that going. Then they started with Flourish. Reverse Cascade. Fountain Ball. Unavanted for some reason. They did some new action. We don't have enough of spree for Saber Dance, so we'll just do a couple of little filler attacks. Because for whatever reason they started with 100 of spree. There we go. Now, Saber Dance, and then they did Devilment, Starfall Dance. I spent too much time, so Fan Dance 4 has been spent. They did some kind of new move. Technical Step. We'll do Technical Step. Bam. And they did Tilana after that. And then they did the new move that I don't know what is. So the current flow for Dancer as it is right now is you've got these two moves can proc these two, and then these two moves can proc Fan Dance. But Flourish will give you a guaranteed proc on these. You still got to get hopeful that you get a Fan Dance proc though. And then Fan Dance will proc Fan Dance 3. But Flourish will give you procs for Fan Dance 3 and Fan Dance 4, which the only way to get it is to get from Flourish. But that's it for the physical range DPS. Next up, we're going to be doing the magical range DPS. So I'm just going past that. And here we go. Magical range DPS. So the first thing they mentioned here with magical range DPS is they're going to be getting a trait that reduces the cooldown for Swift Cast from 60 seconds to 40 seconds. Just like healers, that means we'll get an extra use of Swift Cast once every 3 minutes, which is very nice. And the other one, like all of the other roles that have mitigation, they're getting a buff to their mitigation. So that will be getting increased to 15 seconds. Very interesting, like I mentioned before during the physical range DPS section. Very interesting that all these mitigations are getting buffed. So that's the role specific stuff. Now for Black Mage. Why did that not go to Black Mage? There we go. The first thing they mentioned, and I think it might be one of the biggest quality of life things they've done to Black Mage in a while. Actually, it's hard to say. Every expansion has some nice quality of life for Black Mage. But it's been a long time coming. Casting spells and landing them during Umbral Ice will restore MP instead of Umbral Ice increasing your MP regen based on server ticks. So this means people won't need third-party plugins to keep track of their regen ticks anymore, because you'll just get a fixed amount that is restored each time you land a spell during Umbral Ice. Very nice, because server regen ticks can be very finicky, so that's a very nice little quality of life. The other big thing that they spent quite a bit of time talking about, and ended up not talking about anything else because of it, is ley lines. You'll be able to move it once per use of ley lines. So if you put down your ley lines, then suddenly you got to move. You can move somewhere else and then move your ley lines with you. But if you put your ley lines in somewhere that else is bad, then they're just gonna stay there. So make sure you move your ley lines where you actually want them to be placed. There are a couple of other things that they didn't mention at all. So we'll have a little bit of a look at the trailer, and we'll see what is specifically going on. I'll do my best to describe it. Here we go, Black Mage. So first up, they open up with Ice 3, I believe it is. Then they do this big Thunder skill, which is probably a new Thunder. It looks kind of like the PvP skill Burst. I think they did Amplify. Ice 4, Fire 3 to change to Astral Fire. Ley Lines, Fire 4, Fire 4, Fire 4. Then they thoroughly manipulated to move. Then they did the new Ley Lines movement skill, Paradox, to refresh Enochian. Fire 4, Fire 4, Fire 4. So it looks like 3 Fire 4s, and that new gauge is filling up. Which is interesting each time they do a Fire 4. Then they did a huge big boomy that seemed to use that new gauge. And it also refunded their Umbral Hearts, which is interesting. Then they did they did Flare and a Flare. Another big move. Go back again. And we press play. You can see there's Ice. Fire 3. And then they get into Ley Lines, Fire 4. And then that fills the gauge with each cast of Fire 4. And seems to be instant. It doesn't wait for the spell to go off. It seems to be as soon as they start casting, it adds another arrow to that new gauge. And then once all 6 of them are filled, so it takes 4 Fire 4s, they do those abilities. It looks like 3 maybe abilities that they did there. They cast some stuff. Then they did triple cast, a flare, which gave them 3 of that new ability, 3 of that gauge. And then they did that ability again. So whether you're doing your AoE combo or that's the wrong thing. Whether you're doing your AoE combo or your single target combo, it looks like you'll get access to this new Hadouken looking big fireball shooty move, which is very interesting. So now let's pop over to the game and I'll do my best to recreate the stuff that exists in the game currently. So here we go. We got my little striking dummy out. Okay, so Ice 3. Thunder. Can't use Amplifier yet. Ice 4. Fire 3. Now we'll use Amplifier. Can't use Ley Lines yet, but that's fine. Fire 4. They used Fire 4 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Gonna use Paradox. My thingy dropped off. I think because I hesitated. Actually the spell length could have been longer because of ley lines. They did ethereal manipulation. I can't do that to anyone at the moment. I suppose I can do it to the striking dummy. No, it's only to a mate, I guess. They did the melee lens move skill. That 5-4. Okay, let's get the 5-4s going again. 5-4, 5-3 to get started. 5-4. 5-4. 5-4. They did that new move that uses gauge. And there was Umbral Hearts refunded. Right. There we go. Okay, we got Umbral Hearts now. Let's do the AoE thing. 5-4? Not 5-3. Okay, so they did a flare. Flare. I think they used Xenoglossy. Interesting. Triple Blast? I should have done that after swapping back to Astral Fire, but that's fine. Flare, flare. And then they did the new move. I'm a little bit confused. I feel like I'm dropping my Astral Fire faster than I should be. My health bars are all messed up though. There was some stuff in there that they didn't talk about. Definitely that new big boomy skill that came after doing those 6-5-4s or the multiple flares. It looked like it was 2 flares gives you the same amount as 3-5-4s. So that's interesting. And it's a big boomy attack. Very, very interesting. I have a feeling it's going to smooth things out with Black Mage a fair bit, especially the MP regen ticks. Going to be very interesting. I think there's going to be less filler. Oh, one of them could have been Despair. Actually, let's have a look at see what Despair's animation currently looks like. It could be a new animation for Despair. Let's see. Yes, one of them was Despair, and then they did that new move after Despair. Okay. Interesting. So wait, was one of those a fire too? There's fire 2. I feel like they didn't do fire 2 though. I feel like they did 2 flares. And then they did a new move. And then that refunded the Umbral Hearts. Let's have a look again actually. Let's have a look back at the trailer. Boop. Let's have another little look. So there's the new Thunder. Amplifier to get a Polyglot. Ice 4 to get the Umbral Hearts. Fire 3 to swap to Astral Fire. There's ley lines. Fire 4, Fire 4, Fire 4. So they got 3 of those stacks after those 3 Fire 4s. Ethereal Manipulation. Moved the ley lines. Then they did Paradox to refresh their Astral Fire. Then 3 more Fire 4s. Did they do a Despair now? There's the Despair. And then this is the new move. Okay, so they did the new move after Despair. Interesting. That looked like Xenoglossy. Triple cast. Flare, which again gave 3 stacks of both. Then the new move. Interesting. Interesting. So Fire 4 gives it, but Despair doesn't. That's it for Black Mage. Now let's have a little bit of a little peek at what's going on with Summoner, which I'm going to be honest, I kind of found it the most underwhelming. But let's have a little bit of a look at Summoner. So first of all, new Demi Primal. We've got Solar Bahamut that's been added. That is in addition to Bahamut and Phoenix. And the rotation for including it now will be you start the fight, you summon Solar Bahamut, then you get Original Bahamut, then you get Solar Bahamut, and then you get Phoenix. So Solar Bahamut's probably going to have your highest potency damage, so having it in your opener and in your 2-minute burst guaranteed basically means that you will never not have Solar Bahamut and its big boomy skills when you need them. They also said that Summoner will be getting a new ability after Searing Light, and I'm pretty sure it's an attack, but there looks like there's another buff that they didn't talk about as well. But what they did talk about is Summoner is going to be keeping Resurrection for 7.0. They're undecided for 8.0, but we still have our Res for Dawn Trail. So that's interesting that they've decided to keep it alongside all of these other mitigation buffs. So let's have a little look at how Summoner go in the trailer, and I'll do my best to describe what we're seeing. So they start the fight with Phoenix for whatever reason. And then you get to see the single target attack, the AoE version of the attack, and Phoenix is doing its attacks in the meantime. Revelation, and we see a Ruin, and an Energy Drain. There's Searing Light. There's the new attack. That looks like Festa. That looks like Pain Flare, potentially. That's Ruin 4, then they summon Ifrit. Then they do the Ruby Ruin move, or Ruby Ride, or whatever it's called. Then they summon Titan and do Topaz right after that. None of the weaving abilities, though. They're not showing any of the weaves, for whatever reason. Then they summon Garuda, and they do Emerald Rite. Pretty sure that's what it's called. And now they summon Solar Bahamut. And it starts off doing what looks like the new version of Death Flare. New single target attack, new AoE attack, new version of Arcmorn, and then they do something after Carbuncle returns, which looks like some kind of buff that you might get after you summon Solar Bahamut. So, generally, seems to function almost identically to how Summoner is now. So let's jump over to the game and we'll see that. We'll see that it is very much functionally much the same. So, swap over to Summoner. Okay, here we go. We got Phoenix, so let's do this. Summon Phoenix, do Fountain of Fire. Bam. And then we'll do Brand of Purgatory. Bam. Revelation. Or Enkindle Phoenix, I guess. May as well do the Enkindle move on myself. Okay. Phoenix is gone. Do Ruin. Energy Drain. Actually, I wonder if they did Energy Siphon instead. Searing Light. Its new attack. Festa. Pain Flare. Summon Ifrit. And yes, Ruby Rite. Summon Titan. Topaz Rite. They completely ignored, like I said, they completely ignored the Astral Flow abilities, which is strange. But anyway, Summon Garuda, Emerald Rite. Bam. And then now we can pull out Bahamut instead of doing Solar Bahamut. And then they did what looks like... they did the new version of what looks like Death Flare. They did the new version of Astral Impulse, they did the new version of Astral Flare, and they did Arcmorn. I was too slow though. And then they did some other kind of buff afterwards, so you can kind of see the addition of Solar Bahamut really changes nothing for Summoner at all. It's basically just a reskin of Bahamut, and you get less opportunities to use Phoenix. Which means less healing overall, which is interesting. I have some opinions about that. I think that's a bad thing, personally. Let's go back over to the here. I personally think that's a bad thing. I think having less uses of Phoenix will make the job less fun, because Solar Bahamut to me looks a lot like regular Bahamut. So it feels like 3 minutes of every 4 minutes you're going to be doing the same thing, and then once every 4 minutes you get to do something a little bit different. I don't know if I like that. But we'll see. We'll have to see. We'll have to get it in hand to see how it is. So, Red Mage. The first thing, right off the bat, is the ability Manification. Instead of increasing black and white mana by 50, it will give you a use of the enchanted melee attacks, whether that's AoE or single target. To make this actually function properly, they've changed the AoE combo to use 50 mana instead of 60 as it currently does. As it is right now, you use Morlane 3 times and it has a cost of 20, so it's 60. But when we get to the job action trailer, you'll see they've added a new ability that combos off Morlane for the 3rd hit. And I'm assuming that will have a cheaper cost than 20 that will total up to 50 instead. They also mentioned that there will be an attack that becomes available after a use of Embolden, and we'll see that in the trailer as well. So let's have a little look at that right now. So you can see here, they use Jolt, the arrow, and they core in, and they do Morlane, and then a new ability in Displacement. Then they use Acceleration and Impact. Then they use Embolden. The new move off Embolden. Then they use Manification, core in, and then do their single target melee combo. Then they use Displacement again, the Flare, Scorch, Resolution, and a new finisher potentially, unless it's a new animation for Contra 6, which is possible, but who knows? Who knows? It's definitely possible. It's more likely that it's going to be a finisher, but it could be an upgrade to Contra 6. They didn't say. That's one of the things they didn't mention. Let's have a little bit of a look at how Red Mage functions in the game currently, and we'll see if we can mimic what we saw in the trailer. So let's whoosh over here. Now we can start imitating what they did. We'll reset the add menu on that. Bam. Okay. So they started off Jolt. Their arrow. Core. Morlane. Then a new move that we don't have access to, so I'll just do another Morlane. Displacement. Then they did Acceleration. Impact. And then they did Embolden. Bam. They did a new move off Embolden. And they did Manification, core, the single target melee combo, Displacement, the Flare, Scorch, Resolution, and the new ability could be Contra 6. I don't know. That looks quite different. It's probably a completely new ability. What's Flesh look like? No, yeah, it's probably a completely new ability. Could be an off-global. I feel like it's probably just a finisher that comes after Resolution, though. Just given their track record of, like, you get the Flare and the Holy at level 70, Scorch at level 80, and then Resolution at level 90. It makes sense. They'll probably add something else onto the melee combo. But that's what they've done with Red Mage. I think there's a decent amount of quality of life there, especially in the AoE situations. Let's go back over. Especially in the AoE situations, there's a fair bit of quality of life. And like with many of the other jobs, they're making it so you don't accidentally overcap, which is also very good. Like Barrel Stabilizer with Machinist. You get that use of the ability instead of it filling your gauge. So you don't need to be like, I'm at 60 mana, but I need to use this because it's off cooldown. And then you overcap. But thank you very much for watching this one. I hope you got something out of it. I hope you found it informative. We'll be looking at Pictomancer, like I said, with Viper in a completely different video because they're new jobs. I can't show off how that looks in the game. I can't really compare to how it currently is because it doesn't exist yet. But we will discuss what we saw in the job action trailer, how we think the job functions, and I'll give my opinions on it more than anything, just because there's very little that we can do beyond speculation anyway. But yes, if you haven't watched it already, I've got a video out for the tank changes and the healer changes, and coming up next will be the changes to melee. And then after that, I'll be talking about Pictomancer and Viper. So yes, if you enjoyed this video, do the YouTube things if you want. If you don't, that's fine. I'm happy either way. If you do have any feedback though, feel free to give it. This is my first time doing any sort of like pre-written kind of video for YouTube. So I'm very, very willing to improve, and any feedback you have would be greatly appreciated. Absolutely. But yeah, as always, take care of yourselves until I see you again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.